Today, we're jumping into a fascinating text that explores the brutal clash between our most brilliant plans and, well, reality. It's a story about nations, about power, and about a fortress that actually managed to defeat itself. So, the author, Yoon Hae-rok, kicks things off with this really simple but deep idea. A nation isn't just some abstract thing on a map. No, it's built from the ground up, starting with individual people. And in the end, it really just reflects the character of its people, and of course, its leaders. And that immediately brings up a huge question, one that history has answered over and over, and often in some pretty shocking ways. What really keeps a nation safe? Is it brute strength? Is it perfect planning? Or is it something else entirely? To get into this, the author gives us this amazing metaphor. He asks us to look at two fundamentally different kinds of fortresses, each built with a completely different idea of what defense even means. And the contrast here is everything. On one side, you've got walls like the Great Wall, right? They're built right into the mountains, using the land itself to protect against enemies from the outside. But then, on the other side, you have Osaka Castle, which was designed for a totally different reason, to protect a ruler from threats coming from the inside. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the story of Osaka Castle is the key to this whole argument. It's a wild story about how the most perfect defense imaginable can fail in the most human way possible. So this place was built by Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the great unifier of Japan. And let me tell you, it was considered the absolute gold standard of defensive engineering. I mean, on paper, it was literally unbeatable. And the scale was just mind-blowing. Get this. The cornerstone of the main gates, a single piece of rock, weighed a staggering 130 tons. Just try to wrap your head around that. This thing was built to be indestructible. And it doesn't stop there. Another massive stone guarding one of the main entrances was 108 tons. The whole point was to just overwhelm you with pure physical power, to intimidate anyone who even thought about attacking. Now, the author breaks this down in a brilliant way, using the idea of hardware and software. The castle's physical structure, the giant stones, the high walls, the hardware, was basically perfect. But the fatal problem, the reason it all came crashing down, was a catastrophic failure in its human software. So how in the world did this supposedly invincible fortress actually fall? It's a tragedy in 4 acts, really. First, after Hideyoshi dies, his young son and his mother inherit the castle. Then, facing a powerful rival, Ieyasu, they make a terrible miscalculation. They think they can negotiate for peace. And that leads to the fatal act. They agree to fill in their own moat as a gesture of goodwill. The second that moat was gone, Ieyasu's army just walked right in. The impregnable fortress was taken without a fight. All right, so let's really dig in here, because this story about a castle, it's really just a metaphor for something much, much bigger that the author is trying to explain. This constant battle between our perfect plans and the absolute chaos of real life. First step, you have what the author calls the principles of the world. Now just think of this as the perfect plan. The world on a blueprint, the theory. Everything is clean, logical, predictable. It all just makes perfect sense. It's the flawless design of an unbeatable fortress. And then, that perfect plan slams right into the providence of nature. And look, this isn't some weird mystical thing. It's just his term for reality. The messy, unpredictable, chaotic world where people make mistakes, where emotions get in the way, where someone decides to fill in their own moat. And this right here, this is the main event. When you put that clean theory of principle up against the messy reality of providence, reality wins every single time. The castle's perfect design was the theory, but the flawed, chaotic human decisions, that was the reality that brought the whole thing crashing down. Okay, so what are we supposed to do with this incredible lesson? What's the takeaway for us today? How do we avoid building our own perfect fortress just to turn around and fill in the moat ourselves? Well, the author gives us a pretty serious warning. He says, the second we forget to be humble, the moment we start to believe our plan is perfect and can't fail, we get eaten by what he calls the monster of fixed ideas. We get rigid, we go blind, and that is when we are most vulnerable. So true strength, and this goes for anything, whether you're defending a country or just managing your own life, it doesn't come from having the perfect plan. It actually comes from accepting that your plan is not perfect. It's about having the humility and the flexibility to adapt when the messy, unpredictable world inevitably comes knocking. And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question, one that turns this big historical story into something incredibly personal. It forces you to ask, what is the moat that protects you? What are the core defenses in your own life, your principles, your skills, your relationships? And are you, maybe through your own rigid thinking or naive assumptions, slowly filling that moat in yourself without even realizing it?